Shalom. I think every day about the welfare of the Jewish people, and that's why the wedding this week between the Clinton girl, Chelsea, and the Jewish fella, Mezvinsky, has raised so many issues for the Jewish community. And it was, of course, in the media, everybody was talking about who's going to go and where it's going to be and what royalty is going to be there and celebrities. But for the Jewish people, it represents a very different issue, and I wanted to give you different aspects of it and talk about the implications for us as a people. And there's, on my News and Torah that I send out to about 1,000 people a couple times a week, I posted two articles. One is a woman on Ynet, Israeli News, who said the following: why is this a problem? Because the Jewish people are a national religious collective that aims to preserve its uniqueness. The only way to preserve an endangered minority, suggests Levy, a professor at Bar Ilan, is if the majority of its members marry each other. On the other hand, I posted an article from one of the most interesting thinkers in the American Jewish scene today, Rabbi Erwin Kula of Klau, and he said the following in brief: there's an important challenge here, hopefully a story worth telling about the nature of America reflected in this high-profile wedding. The Clinton-Mezvinsky wedding is a perfect expression of the emerging American religious and social landscape, in which one's inherited group identity bears little or no significance to one's marriage. Then he goes on to say, welcome to the new world of religion in America. Chelsea's parents were Methodists and Baptists, and she grew up as a mainstream Protestant but married a guy who grew up as a mainstream Jew. What is unprecedented, he says, wonderful for some and horrifying to others, is that in this era no one needs to reject his or her identity to cross century-old boundaries. He says the fastest religious identity growing group in America is none. That doesn't mean they're agnostic or atheist, but they're mixing things. Fewer and fewer Americans are getting their religion in what he calls cathedrals. He says, yes, there will be a loss about which traditionalists are appropriately feeling scared and angry, which liberals and secularists tend to deny. Loving each other across boundaries and building families to which multiple traditions are brought is far better for the planet than what our religions have too often done, demonizing the other. And then he says, now that we are transitioning into some next expression of this intuition, culturally and religiously, it's hard for purists and fundamentalists, and so we are seeing backlash all over the planet. And indeed, there are no roadmaps, so we are making up it as we go along. But he ends up by saying, Mazel Tov, Mark and Chelsea. Now, it turns out that a rabbi co-officiated. They had a chuppah. They had the 7 wedding benedictions. Of course, there's lots of jokes about it, that the Secret Service code name for the Mezvinskys was Muchatunim, which is Yiddish for in-laws. The glass that Mark broke at the end had a presidential seal on it, and that the Secret Service had to learn all these new code words like chuppah and kedushin and yichud. But it's a very serious issue. Now, I'm not, as a conservative rabbi, allowed to participate in intermarriage, and Orthodox rabbis are not. Reform and Reconstructionist rabbis have it as an option. And the studies, there's a recent study by Steve Cohen, the foremost sociologist in the American Jewish scene, who said that it turns out that intermarrieds feel very welcome in synagogues, although I think there's a bigger challenge for conservative and Orthodox here. But it's not an issue of them not feeling welcome, it's an issue in synagogue life of them feeling like they understand enough of what's going on and feel that they are comfortable there. Now, one of the central issues is was kind of portrayed to us by Senator Ted Kennedy, may his memory be for blessing, before he passed away, when he said that, when he spoke to a Rabbinical Assembly convention that was in Boston a few years ago, many years ago now, conservative rabbis, and he said that he had a pile of wedding invitations on his desk involving members of the Congress, Senate, and House, and that it was amazing to him how many involved intermarriages between a Jew and a Gentile. He said the good news is it shows how well Americans are being accepted in American society, American Jews, and yet on the other hand, he probably figured that a lot of rabbis wouldn't like it. And of course, I do want to preserve the Jewish people, and I worry about every lost Jew. And we worry that when there's an intermarriage that the children may not, the family will be less Jewish, the children may not be raised as Jews. Now, there are many, many intermarried families that are raising Jewish children. We have them in my synagogue. So we, of course, I spend a lot of energy working on conversion, hoping to have more Jews, add more Jews to the world. In fact, I was just in touch with another rabbi who was sent by an international Jewish organization called Kolenu to a community in Africa where there are people living as Jews, and we're figuring out a way to, they're taking my online conversion course, offered it to the whole village for nothing, and there's only one guy who speaks English. He's translating everything into their language, and we're hoping to get a Beit Din there sometime to convert the whole village. They're living as Jews. And I'll just tell you about another email I got recently about how profound that this is. This woman who came in from California, finished her conversion, is involved with a Jewish guy, said, I just want to take the time to sit down and give you a note you deserve. First of all, the experience you provided in person quite exceeded my expectations in terms of your congeniality, supportiveness, and support. After conversion, we went to the kosher bagel shop. I sat there marveling that I was no longer really an outsider to this. It was the simple reality. And then she said, goes on to say, the conversion definitely did something for me. It gave me my voice back. I have since been able to really state my opinions are, and for the first time have very frank conversations about what Judaism means to me and to everyone. So thank you. Thank you for making this your pet mitzvah. I'm sure there are people not supportive of this endeavor, but as someone who believes in what you're trying to do, please know how profoundly your willingness to put energies in this venue has affected my life and will affect my community for a long time. Well, that's exactly it. We've got to make more Jews. I worry when there's an intermarriage. However, this is the reality of Jewish life today and of all American life. It's not just Jewish life. And so even at the same time that I worry, I understand that this is a reality that we have to deal with in this world. And we want to encourage those couples to raise Jewish children, have Jewish lives as best we can. I think it's wonderful that people can find love in this tough world. The Torah says a man should... it's not good for a man to be alone, and that a man leaves his mother and father and clings to a wife, and they become as one. And given the reality of these cross boundaries and people mixing things, as Rabbi Kula says in the end of our article, the article that he wrote, in the end, what it is that people that can deal with this reality is the obligation then is to offer the wisdom of our tradition as the best possible. Interesting, I went to a movie last night called Dinner for Schmucks. It was a kind of funny movie with Steve Carell, but what struck me mostly was the title. Like, it assumes the Jews represent 2% of the population. How many of them know Yiddish? But the fact that they had a Yiddish word there, schmuck, in the movie indicates how broadly and widely Jewish expressions and the Jewish influence has affected the culture in a positive way. Maybe not that word so much, but in a positive way. So meanwhile, to the Clintons and Mezvinskys, we say congratulations. And I hope that they'll make a decision to raise Jewish children. In the meantime, we build the Jewish people Jew by Jew. I'll tell you just two other stories. There's an Hispanic guy who's translating all my videos into Spanish as an outreach to the Hispanic world. And I have an African-American guy who's studying in a rabbinical school here who is being mentored by me because he wants to reach out to the African-American community and offer them the beauties of Judaism. So we have to reach out in every generation, expand Jewish education, and try and bring as many into the wisdom orbit of Judaism as we can, and hoping to continue the profound insights of the Torah. As it says in the week that I'm recording this, this is Parshat Re'eh, and God says, I give you the choices of good and evil, of bracha and klala. And last week it reminded us that man does not live by bread alone.